everyone, and welcome to this week's video blog. I have a really exciting video and it's going to be the first ever recipe cooking tutorial that I've ever done. So let me know what you think. If you have any suggestions or things that you think I should change, please let me know in the comments below. So this week we're going to be making kale chips. For anyone who hasn't tried any raw food or even vegan dishes before, this is a great way to start. It's a great substitute for potato chips. They have a very similar texture, if not identical. I'll put a list of all the ingredients as well as step-by-step directions in the description box below. So here goes. Hope you enjoy. The first step is you want to take your leaf and separate the green leafy part from the stem. So I'm using beet leaves right now, so the kale stem is going to be a little bit thicker. You'll be making bite-sized pieces, and remember that when you're dehydrating, the food is going to get smaller, so do fairly big chunks like this. Don't go too small, otherwise it's going to get too small when you're actually dehydrating it for a while. So as I said, I'm using beet leaves. You can use kale, you can use turnip leaves, you can use spinach, anything like that, but kale is obviously the most popular. So you want to rip up about 6 cups worth. So just keep ripping until they're all ripped up.
Tease ya, if you want me, I'll come back and meet ya. Whisper, whisper, you must admit you want it. You want it.
So now that you've got your full bowl of kale chips, you want to add the seasoning. So this recipe, I'm going to do French kale chips, and I'll tell you what goes in there, but you can always just start off with a really plain seasoning, which would be just some sea salt and some olive oil or vegetable oil. So the first ingredient in this recipe is apple cider vinegar, and it's a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. Let's just toss that in there. And apple cider vinegar is a vinegar that's used quite a lot in raw recipes. And the next ingredient is a 1/4 cup olive oil. You can also use vegetable oil or whatever's on hand. I find it doesn't really affect the taste too much, swapping out between the two. Another ingredient is 1 clove of garlic. In case you're wondering why my garlic is green and not white, I'm actually using something which is called garlic shoots. So there's these funny looking green swirly things. It's really incredible. I'd never seen them before. It was our first time trying them. They are incredibly fragrant and smell exactly like garlic, but they just come in this shape instead of a clove. The next staple ingredient is sea salt. So again, sea salt is used quite a lot in raw recipes. So we'll add in a 1/2 teaspoon. And I'm gonna kind of combine the next seasoning. So the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of herbs de Provence. I have a little homemade mix here, but this is where you can kind of get creative. You can use Italian seasoning, which I'm going to pop some in to make up the difference, just because I don't have enough of herbs de Provence right now and I don't really want to make some more. You can use Italian seasoning. I've tried playing with some Indian spices, doing kind of a curry themed seasoning. I've also tried, what else have I tried? Doing taco seasoning, kind of a more Mexican seasoning, that it's really hard to screw it up. So feel free, once you feel more comfortable, to get a little bit creative and playing around. So as I said, I'm using also some homemade Italian seasoning. And let me know if you want me to show you how to make some of these homemade seasonings. It's a really cheap, easy way to do it. If you guys want it, I can do that in another video. And just since I'm a fan of spice, I'm going to add in just a little bit of cayenne pepper. So now, you're just going to grab your spoons and you're going to toss the kale until it's really well coated. It is really important that all sides of every leaf are coated. Often, depending on what the seasoning is and how adventurous I'm feeling, I've actually started to mix them by hand and kind kind of made sure each one has kind of a little glisten with the oil. So the next step is to put the chips in the dehydrator. So this is my dehydrator. It is a Nesco brand. I love this one personally because it's a little bit cheaper than some other models. It has a ton of tray space. As you can see, there's I actually got an expander pack which came with 2 extra trays, but the only downside, it is a little bit loud, so I tend to shut it away in another room while it's cooking. You can also make these in your oven if you don't have a dehydrator. You just need to set it to the lowest temperature. What you just want to do is prop open the oven slightly. So often I've stuck a butter knife just in that crack. Otherwise the chips are going to cook way too fast. Then you're going to put the chips on your dehydrator trays. So you can line these with parchment paper if you want to keep it clean, and I recommend if you are doing it in your oven, definitely line your baking trays. Otherwise the chips will stick like crazy. So I'm going to use my hands because I'm not afraid to get messy. And you want to spread them out. They don't have to be too far apart. As I mentioned earlier in the video, they are going to decrease in size a lot. So if there is a little bit of overlap, that's totally fine. So just keep doing this until all your chips are spread out. And here's what the finished product looks like. So what's great about these, if you keep them in an airtight container, so I just keep them in giant Ziploc Tupperware or anything like that, they'll keep for a really long time, at least a few weeks or so. But if you're anything like me, you don't have to worry about keeping them that long because they'll be long gone before then. I did a bit of a bigger batch in order to fill up my dehydrator. So this batch in particular probably took somewhere close to 8 hours to dehydrate in total. But what's great about dehydrators, you can kind of set them and leave them for as long as you like. So I actually went to bed, had it on, woke up in the morning, and they were pretty much fully done at that point. You know when they're done when they have a crispy texture. It's going to resemble a thin potato chip and have the same sort of crispy, light, flaky texture. Now, if you're doing it in your oven and you don't have a dehydrator, just know that they're going to cook a lot faster. So when I said they took about 8 hours in the dehydrator, you're probably going to only need maybe 1 to 2 hours. And you want to keep a very close eye on them because if they start to turn brown or burn, it means that they're cooking too much. Either the temperature is too high or they're done. Well, with the dehydrator, you don't have as much to worry about because it cooks at a much slower rate. So just keep a close eye on them if you're using the oven method. So that's it for this week. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel. And I would love, as I said, to have a kind of two-way dialogue going. So if you have any videos that you'd like me to cover or any, questions that you need answers, please comment below and I can take those into consideration for future videos. Thanks so much again, and I'll see you next week.